Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Me, Only Run Very Noob, bringing you Guardian gameplay. Thought I would do something a little different today with worlds behind us and not much CC in the future. We're kind of like on a holiday break, it seems. The only thing that's really relevant right now is there is a skirmish season happening. We just finished week 1, and I believe there's like 2 weeks left. So I thought I'd bring you a little bit of Blitz gameplay. I just played in a skirmish last weekend, did pretty well. And I was not playing Bravo. Instead, I decided to play Yoji, mainly just for fun and for something a little different. Yoji's an interesting hero. He just kind of wants to block. His hero ability doesn't do anything, but he does get to start with 2 extra life, which can be very relevant. And I don't have a lot of experience playing Yoji, but I figured maybe it wouldn't be too tough. You just kind of try to block and understand your opponent's decks and block accordingly. As you can see in this list, basically the only attacks you'd ever really want to throw are Command and Conquer and Spinal Crush, and oftentimes you're just blocking for 3 with them anyway. We have Fate Foreseen and Sink Below. We have Oasis Respite. We have all 6 staunch responses, blue, yellow, and red. We have Last Ditch Effort just in case we run into the mirror or something. I like this as fatigue protection a little bit better than something like Remembrance, because Remembrance doesn't pitch 3 and it doesn't block at all. In matchups where fatigue isn't an issue, this pitches into the Titan's Fist so that it swings for 4 and it just blocks 3, so it's like fine. But yeah, other than that, it's kind of, I guess Brothers in Arms 2 is another notable one. When we look at equipment, we are bringing Ram's Head, which combos pretty well with like Staunch Response, or like giving you some additional value if you pay into Brothers in Arms or Oasis Respite. And we also bring Tunic quite often. Today against Briar, though, I'm not bringing Tunic. Into the Rune Blades, I like to bring AB2 if I'm fatiguing. And if I'm bringing AB2, I like to have my other 2 pieces be armor. I'm not sure if it's correct, but I don't have a ton of experience in Blitz. Last weekend was actually like first time I'd actually sleeved this deck up and given it a go. I like to go first. Basically in every matchup, it lets me just swing hammer to fatigue him a card or 2, and arsenal a defense reaction. And when you're on Tunic, you get a Tunic counter too, so not too exciting. Yeah, most of our hands are going to look sort of like this, where there's not a lot to talk about, just swing hammer and arsenal a defense reaction. On occasion, I suppose, we'll throw a Command and Conquer. In a format where people can't bring more than 40 cards, it seems that fatigue is quite a good strategy to sort of just make your opponent beat you. Briar definitely has the tools to do so, though. As we see, they have Crown and Dominion, which will give them a big cash-in turn. They have like Channel Mount Heroic, presumably, and that can definitely deal a ton of damage. Scar for a Scar, just going to look to block 3, probably with a... No, we're going to block with Brothers in Arms, because I have Staunch Response and Arsenal. So the 2 floating after I block with Brothers in Arms will be useful here. Having 2 reactions in hand is kind of awkward because we can't block with either one of them. We're probably looking to use them to AB and pay into Rampart maybe if they swing with Thorn, or keep 1 for Arsenal. So we're just going to block 4 here, leaving the 2 floating for our yellow Staunch and Arsenal just in case they play like a pump spell into an attack. They play Cash-In, which is interesting. I feel like they maybe... If they had that, they would have started their turn with it, but we don't get to block with Rampart to get the chain break action here. They attack with Ravenous Rabble. I think I'm just going to block 3. I don't really mind giving them Embodiment of Earth because we don't attack them much, especially with this hand. If we have a card left in our hand at the end of the turn, we're going to just want to Arsenal the blue Unmovable. I imagine against Briar, like the Tall Reacts are good because they have pump spells and they have like, yeah, just like Channel Mount Heroic, which I guess is a pump spell. just pumps everything for multiple turns. So you're generally going to get your full value off of these big sort of tall attacks or tall reactions. And as we see here, they play a Nimblism. So we're going to get to block this Swarming Gloomveil. We are just going to prevent this damage though. I'm not going to save the Unmovable to block with because we're going to get the full 3 value out of it. We can pitch it to Rampart plus Staunch from Arsenal to block for 7. And then we'll have 2 floating for their follow-up Rosetta Thorn to stop 2 Arcane. Because we have AB2, we can fully block out Rosetta Thorn on some turns. This turn, though, we don't have an extra card to block, so we're going to end up taking 2 physical and stopping... Oh, it looks like I can only stop 1 Arcane. I did my math a little wrong, but still. The Unmovable got the full 3 value by pitching into Rampart and having leftover to Arcane Barrier. Another hand that's heavy on defense reactions, that's probably just going to happen quite often in this deck. We play, I don't know, a lot. 2 Unmovable, 6 Staunch Responses, and then 4 the 0 for 4s, plus like Oasis Respite. So what is that? Like 14 defense reactions, essentially. They play a Plunder Run, so I definitely want to block everything they are doing this turn. We end up blocking the Arcane with the Unmovable just because we'll have 2 floating for the Staunch Response anyway. If I didn't have something to block physical with the 2 leftover resources, I probably wouldn't have blocked the Arcane just because I really want to make sure that they don't hit with this Plunder Run. Because if they hit, they get to draw a card, and I don't want to let that happen. Here, I think I'm probably supposed to block with the blue Staunch Response, but I end up blocking with the yellow Staunch Response. I just kind of forgot this didn't have Go again. I just wanted to save the blue to like AB2 and then block with Rampart on the Thorn, but they don't have Go again, so I think I'm supposed to just block with the yellow or the blue Staunch Response and Arsenal the yellow one. A slight mistake just because I forgot they didn't have Go again on that attack. I just saw the one floating and was like, yeah, I'll keep the blue to stop 3 damage. They rabble for 2, and there's no real way for me to get full value blocking this unless I use equipment, and I can just use equipment later. So I'm going to let it hit, but I don't think I'm supposed to let this hit because it gives them an embodiment and I have a Command and Conquer. And there is a chance that I end up keeping 2 cards and want to just Command and Conquer them. So I think I am supposed to use like a Crater Fist block here. But it's pretty close because with 3 cards, they have 3 cards behind, and we definitely want to block a bunch. We want to be fatiguing like every opponent we play, pretty much. We don't really have a legitimate win condition outside of fatiguing our opponents. So I probably just thought I'll save armor for a more relevant on-hit like a Snatch, and still plan to use more of my cards blocking than would allow me to save the Command and Conquer, because one of my cards is even a Sigil, which I can't block with. They attack with Snatch, which doesn't have Go again. And I immediately click Prevent an Arcane, but I think I just am going to take this Arcane and then sink below the Snatch. Which actually does leave me with enough cards to Command and Conquer, which is why maybe blocking with Crater Fist would have been reasonable. But who would have known that their 3-card hand could only throw a Snatch and make a Rune Chant with Grasp? It's probably pretty difficult to know that. And we can still Command and Conquer them and get a card plus their armor. Most likely they're going to give us armor. If they know what Yoji's up to at all, they know that we're really not attacking them for many on-hits. And they should want to keep big hands to go over the top. They end up doing that, just blocking, giving us some armor. We get to gain 3 off Sigil and move on to the next turn. Their Sonata gets them a Runic Reclamation, which isn't the easiest for them to use. I am just going to Arcane Barrier, expecting a little bit more action from them. This Promise of Plenty is sort of interesting. I forget what the on-hit of this is. Oh yeah, so he'd get a free arsenal, so I definitely want to stop this on-hit, and I think I am going to use Armor plus Rampart here. Really using the Rampart because I think he's going to want to break the chain. I know one of his cards is Runic Reclamation, but if his other two cards are like non-attack action and like 0 cost attack, because if he plays another non-attack, he gets to make a embodiment of lightning because he already played the Sonata, and I think, and that's what I'm thinking about with the Rampart, is I'm going to get to block with it for 1 here and then for 2 on a follow-up. That doesn't end up being the case, though. They just play Revel, and then they're going to attack with Rosetta Thorn. And that makes our Favor Scene and our Sink Below like incredibly awkward. We don't get to get like much value out of them at all. So I think I'm just going to AB as much as I can with the blue, and even with one of the defense reactions. I don't think keeping a defense reaction in hand is necessary. I kind of forgot what my arsenal is, though. Oh, my arsenal is a blue staunch response, so I can't use that either. So I think I'm just going to AB 5 with a blue and one of the reds, take 2 Arcane from Rosetta Thorn, and then block with the Rampart on Rosetta Thorn, pitching our last defense reaction. Pumping the Rampart up to 2, of course, because it's already blocked 1 this turn. And I think that's the most damage we can stop here without using armor. Like the expendable armor. Of course, we're going to use Rampart, which is a form of armor, I suppose. But we really don't need to save like a blue to attack. I'd rather just stop 3 damage and keep my life total high so that I can withstand like a channel turn or whatever, what might happen. Our opponent just kind of pauses on priority here, not sure. But then they let us do our stuff. Kind of funny to pitch a Fate for Scene to stop 1 Arcane, but that's just kind of how it goes here. And instead of using a Sink Below on the Rosetta Thorn, we're just going to block 2 with the Rampart to keep the Sink Below in our deck for any reason. If we hadn't blocked with our Rampart, though, we would have just blocked with one of the defense reactions. Probably the Fate for Scene just to like opt 1, I guess. But since our Rampart full blocked out the physical, we didn't need to expend one of our defense reactions. Not that I think us getting fatigued is going to be an issue here at all, but it's just, you know, we get to block the same amount without using a card, so why not? They play a big Snatch for 7, and I'm thinking about staunching for 8, but I don't really like that actually. I think I'm just going to block with Brothers in Arms and Debilitate and then pitch into Brothers in Arms, leaving 2 floating to staunch a follow-up. Because this does have Go Again from the embodiment. Sigil of Solace is a card that seems to be quite awkward a lot of the times, if I'm being honest. They lightning press me and I just have to staunch response this. I don't want them to have Go Again and draw another card. Yes, we overblock by 2, but the card they drew would probably be worth more than 2, so blocking 3 and stopping the card draw is, it's got to be better, right? But like I was saying, Sigil of Solace is a card that I think is a little awkward sometimes. In some other lists, I see they run Peace of Mind over Sigil of Solace, but I kind of wanted a card that worked into Wizard, and I thought Sigil would be better against Kano than Peace of Mind would. Of course, we're not going to I guess I do use my armor to block here. Not sure I need to, but maybe I just don't want to die to arcane, so we're just going to get that value anyway. And then our 2 armor blocks can stop like a 4 breakpoint. But the sigil we can't block with sigil, so we just save it for arsenal since it's going to gain us 3 life when we need it no matter what. And us being lower on board than we actually are with the sigil might make our opponent play a little differently to try to like kill us when we could just play a sigil to not die. So why show them the sigil if we have an empty arsenal to use it or to put it in? They just play a lightning surge from hand with no go again, so I'm assuming this is going to be like a spellbound creeper turn. They lightning press it, which is perfect because we're just going to red staunch response it. And they do play creepers, pitching a Tome of Fyendel, and they Force of Nature. So they are definitely expecting to draw a card off this lightning surge, but we have the perfect response here. Just get to block 7 with our staunch response. And then they Thorn, and we can Oasis Respite this Thorn. I think I have to do it now. I almost clicked pass, but I think I just do it now and target it, because I think what would happen is the arcane damage would go on the stack as soon as I passed. And I have to play the Oasis before. Oasis is cool against Thorn because it actually stops all 4 of the damage. We get to gain a life. And then we're just going to gain 3 life and arsenal a Spinal Crush. Not sure we'll ever have like too much room to play this Spinal Crush, but maybe. And they're running out of cards. They only have 12 in deck. And I guess they're running out of patience because they end up just conceding right there on the spot. This deck might do that to your opponent quite a bit. It is an annoying deck to play against. I guess their build didn't have Channel Mount Heroic, which seems interesting. Like, they had a bunch of Earth Blues, so I had to imagine that they had like a channel somewhere. Maybe that's what forced them to concede that turn, because they drew like double Channel Mount Heroic with no Earth card, and they were just like, you know, flip the table, move on to the next one. But yeah, I think this is actually quite a good deck. I think it's underrepresented for how strong it seems. I think Prism is probably a really bad matchup, although on Talishar I've played it like 4 times and I've only lost once. I just like, you play Arcane Barrier 1 for the Merciful Retribution or whatever, and you just hammer auras every turn. You just hammer auras. And Rampart of the Ram's Head indefinitely stops like one of their attacks for 1 because they're going to be playing New Luminaris, or not New Luminaris, Old Luminaris, Good Luminaris. But it's probably like, if it's a really good Prism pilot, you're probably quite unfavored. A lot of your cards just don't really do anything. They're not going to be on Iris, so you're not really going to get a lot of value out of your defense reactions. Maybe New Prism will like make an Angel, and you'll be a little bit better against that because you can still hammer an Angel for 4, and you can also like Fate Foreseen or Sink Below an Angel's attack. But yeah, I imagine them just like making a bunch of whatever, Spectral Shields off Haze Bending, or making a bunch of auras and attacking you for 1 a bunch is something that's going to be quite difficult. Another matchup that I think is more difficult than like the easy matchups, I guess, is Ira. But I think Ira is like, it's not terrible for you. I think it's pretty close. But I don't have a ton of Blitz experience. Like, I've played thousands and thousands of CC games with Bravo, but I don't even think I've played like 40 games with Yoji on Talishar. So whatever I say, take with a grain of salt, and your own testing is probably going to be effective as well, since I'm still in the knowledge accumulation phase. But I thought I would bring you guys a video that might be relevant for some upcoming skirmishes. If you want to really make your opponents groan and still have a good chance to take down the event, this is a good choice. I think this is a pretty good deck in a chain as well. chain fatigues himself, so you sort of invite that in. Of course, if they play like an Ursa or something, it can be kind of tough. I always try to get a Command and Conquer in Arsenal or something, so when they play Ursa, I can just kill it immediately and move on to fatiguing them further. So thanks for joining me. I hope this was a fun one and a little interesting to see a new deck. And I'll see you guys next time.